Good evening from the Second Age of Reason. Just a few words about the recent speech. The speech that the President gave regarding our privacy. And there's a couple of different points. He mentioned about them reviewing their policies, reviewing their collections, putting the collection into a third party, like a private corporation. Boy, how fascist is that? And just have a few comments, because I know some people just say, "Oh, wonderful, he's acknowledging it," and they don't think about he only has to acknowledge it because he's been caught. I mean, he would never have mentioned this in a million years if it wasn't for Mr. Snowden, if you know what I mean. So he has to respond somehow. And so he comes out and says, well, we're going to review things. We're going to do this, and we'll assure you of that. And trust us. And nothing of substance. Wasn't it Reagan, President Reagan, who said, trust, but verify? I don't like to always quote those people because sometimes they don't politically agree. However, I think is a good maxim in this case. So, that was part of it. Addressing mostly the Fourth Amendment, which is the right of the people to be secure in their persons and things and papers and blah, 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 blah. And if you interpret it literally, it means your body, your possessions, your papers and things, unless there's a reasonable suspicion and you get a warrant from a judge. And that's well and good. We understand the need for that. However, they've kind of slipped the interpretation regarding the internet, saying, well, you can't really say internet is real mail. You can't really say those are real papers or real documents. But I have to say, no, they are. Just because the medium changes, we went maybe from vellum paper to regular pulp paper with acid in it that makes it wear out after time, from papyrus or stone carvings. So things have changed in the medium of writing and possessions a little bit. We cannot put the 1790 list of possessions as the ones that will be covered by the Fourth Amendment. Only we have to take the progress into account of our technologies and stuff. So I think it should be all covered. Well, they'll say, well, those amendments don't cover foreigners. So anything that goes outside the USA border is fair game. Well, I think we'll have to rethink that too, because you make a phone call, stuff may very well go into outer space and bounce off of satellites. You send an email, internet may be routed through fiber optics that go across the ocean and back again. Suddenly, guess what? Since it's not American media anymore and within the American borders, it's not covered anymore by the Constitution. So they have another excuse to get by, but they're not going to mention that because they like to use sort of like a double talk reasoning. So I think that has to be considered when you question your politicians more accurately, especially as it's an election year. Now, that was the Fourth Amendment. The Fifth Amendment is the that you don't have to testify against yourself. And of course, that one's kind of out the window too, because if you refuse to do that, they can often hold you in contempt of court. And I want to bring forward, I mean, everybody talks about Second Amendment, so I'm not going to talk about that. And people have talked about the First Amendment. And just as an aside, you are worried about your freedom of speech and the press and your freedom of association. Let me remind you, First Amendment also contains the freedom of religion, or separation of church and state. And if that comes under the crosshairs, you know we're in for some nasty changes in our country. But I want to go to an amendment that nobody hardly talks about. I want to go to the Third Amendment. Third Amendment, you say. What the heck is the Third Amendment? The Third Amendment is the one about quartering soldiers. See, during the 1700s or whatever, it was common practice for the British to say, we need a place to put our soldiers. And we're not going to build a British military base here. We'll just put them in to everybody's house. Sure. So, let's go to the Smiths and give them a couple of soldiers to quarter. Means take them into your house, give them a place to sleep, and feed them. And the colonists were very resentful of this. And you say, well, what does that have to do with us now? Everything to do with this. Because you are now housing and quartering things of the U.S. forces in your house. How? When they put spyware in your cell phone, when they put spyware in your cable box, when they put spyware in your PC, your laptop, your tablet, when they put spyware on all the streets, or just about everywhere, they put chips in your pets, and maybe the chips will someday be bidirectional. Essentially, you are quartering the forces of a government. And that is a violation of the Third Amendment. If you say no, you should be able to say no, and they should say, okay, we'll go to somebody else who is willing to quarter our forces. Our spyware, our secret little monitor modules, our RFID chips, Third Amendment, look it up. So I'm bringing the Third Amendment up because it is also under attack. So think about it. Talk to your Congress people. Maybe they'll respond, maybe they won't. But I think it's a very real and present issue today. So, Third Amendment, look it up. And do you want to have the government in your laptop, in your cell phone, in your cable box, in your Xbox game system? They're out there. And you are supporting them. You're supporting those forces. And then, of course, not to mention, again, since borders now in the cyber age, the things that come into the United States are from all over the world. Physical presence and location no longer mean anything. We are quartering our forces in other countries, like in Germany and Japan and hundreds of other places. And those people have no say in the matter. And shouldn't they have a say in the matter? I don't know. Maybe they are happy having our troops in their country. But I just thought I would put that forward and leave it for you to comment below. And until later, we'll be seeing you mind your Third Amendment now.